Welcome to the bell curve. There's an old truth about grand conflicts. From a safe distance, they look like fireworks. Up close, they look like administration. Power lines, logistics, grudges, decisions made in dreary rooms by tired people who pretend they're in control. Star Wars has often indulged the fireworks. Empire at War, however, concerns itself with the machinery beneath the spectacle. It treats the Galactic Civil War not as a series of heroic flourishes, but as an enormous, grinding argument about power, and in doing so, it manages something rather rare. It feels more authentically Star Wars than most games that let you fling a lightsaber about with theatrical abandon. The first hint lies in how the game invites you to look at the galaxy. No dramatic fanfare, no heroic close-ups of familiar faces. Instead, you're presented with a map that looks strangely alive. The planets don't simply wait to be clicked, they breathe in the background. Coruscant radiates the stern confidence of a capital utterly certain of its authority. Yavin 4 sits in the corner, damp and defiant. Even without a single spoken line, the galaxy seems full of politics, history and grudges that predate your arrival. The Galactic Civil War has always been an asymmetrical contest. On one side, a massive superstructure of bureaucracy and terror. On the other hand, a threadbare coalition that survives largely through audacity and luck. Most games nod towards this imbalance, but few dare to live in it. Empire at War does. It hands the Empire vast resources, fleets that practically hum with industrial arrogance. You sense the weight of the Imperial war machine before you've moved a single Star Destroyer. Playing the Rebellion is a different type of theatre. It's procrastination disguised as strategy. You stall, you evade, you whisper in shadows. A rebel commander in this game is part general, part conjurer. You don't win early battles so much as survive them with enough scraps to remain irritating. The game creates drama not through cutscenes, but through scarcity. There's a moment every rebel player eventually experiences. You're holding a planet you have no right to hold. The Empire is assembling a fleet so large it might as well arrive carrying its own postcode. You look at your mismatched squadron of second-hand ships and realise the only rational thing to do is leave, and yet you stay. Not because you believe you'll win, but because the story of the Rebellion is fundamentally the story of stubborn hope. In that brief moment before your fleet disintegrates under green turbo laser fire, Empire at War captures the strange sensation at the heart of Star Wars, the knowing futility mixed with the faint, unruly possibility that you'll achieve something improbable. It's not about glory, it's about meaning. The game's attention to lore isn't showy, it's confident. Planets aren't just set pieces from the films placed on the board for decorative nostalgia. They have identities. They offer bonuses rooted in their culture and history. Kuat builds ships because that's what Kuat does. Mon Calamari produce capital ships that look as though they've been sculpted rather than assembled. These aren't just Easter eggs, they're infrastructure. This sense of planetary character gives the Galactic Civil War a texture Hollywood rarely bothers with. Occupying a world feels political, liberating one feels personal, losing one resonates like a failure that echoes. It's rather refreshing to find a game willing to suggest that the war isn't merely a shouting match between a masked sorcerer and a plucky farm boy, but a sprawling web of systems that all tug against each other. Battles themselves are a kind of conversation. Imperial fleets pitch themselves forward with the confidence of a sledgehammer. Their ships are geometric, brutal and self-assured. The Rebellion, by contrast, fights like a whisper that unexpectedly grows teeth. X-wings dart, Y-wings lumber along with the stubbornness of a tired oxen, and corvettes scurry about like anxious terriers. You win not by overpowering your opponent, but making them look in the wrong direction at the wrong moment. In this sense, Empire at War understands drama. Real drama isn't bombast, it's tension. The feeling that something meaningful might snap at any moment. And the game is generous with those moments. A lone Nebulon B surviving by the skin of its hull. A Star Destroyer awkwardly trying to turn around while your fighters nip at its ankles. It's almost Shakespearean in the way it revels in the slow tilt of power. The Galactic Conquest mode is where the game reveals its most quietly brilliant trick. You're not merely waging a war, you're managing one, guiding the direction of a conflict already steeped in lore. You're making decisions with consequences that ripple across dozens of worlds. Every victory alters the shape of the galaxy. Every defeat rearranges your priorities. You're not being told a Star Wars story, you're writing one. The films become reference points, not boundaries. The game trusts you with the galaxy in a way many others don't. It allows creativity with constraint, which is exactly how mature storytelling works. There's a scholarly discipline to the design. It's as though the developers sat down not to adapt Star Wars, but to anatomize it. What makes this universe tick? Why does this war feel dramatic? What happens when you largely set aside the lightsabers and the Force, leaving only ideology, ships, and willpower? The result is a strategy game that feels like a thesis disguised as entertainment. Not heavy or pompous, just quietly curious about how a rebellion actually functions. The land battles, while less glamorous, continue this theme. They're not exercises in spectacle, they seem like disputes over territory and supply lines rather than arenas built for heroics. The Empire deploys walkers that tower over the battlefield. The Rebellion fields infantry who look as though they've spent the morning arguing about how little equipment they possess. It's messy and grounded. One can almost smell the damp fur on those poor Tauntauns. Many Star Wars games rely on power fantasy, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But there's something unexpectedly compelling about a game that gives you a galaxy and says, with a polite nod, do try to keep up. You're never the centre of this conflict, you're a participant, a facilitator. A strategist scribbling your own footnote into an enormous saga. There's a humility to that. In a franchise famous for destiny and grand prophecies, Empire at War reminds us that wars are decided not by ordained heroes, but by decisions, logistics, and occasionally sheer luck. And somehow, by stripping away the excess, the game becomes more Star Wars than the entries that drape themselves in spectacle. It finds the spirit of the original trilogy hidden in the spaces between the battles. If the Galactic Civil War is a stage, Empire at War is the rare production that focuses its spotlight not on the loudest actors, but on the architecture, the lighting, the stagehands, the things that make the performance work. It reminds us that rebellion is as much about paperwork as heroism, that empires crumble because of supply chains as much as laser fire. In treating the war as an intricate system rather than a string of highlights, the game achieves something subtle yet profound. It feels truthful. The kind of truth that emerges when imagination meets discipline. Against all the odds, the strategy game with the fewest flourishes may be the one that understands Star Wars with the greatest clarity. And in that clarity, stories continue most naturally when we ask how the powerful maintain their grip, and how the powerless pry it loose. A question Empire at War invites us to explore long after the credits roll. Catch you next time on The Bell Curve.